Good morning to everyone. Hi.
Good morning, everyone. We'll start in 2 minutes. Good morning, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you for the Unite Third Dialogue. My name is Stéphane Boivin. I'm pleased to be the session chair. The Third Dialogue is organized by Grenoble INP UGA and offer for the first time a session open to the general public to learn about the concept of European values and innovation. One of the novelties of today's event is the public session in a 100% online format via the live stream on YouTube. Let's have a quick look at the program for this morning. So first, we will start with the welcome greetings from the Unite President, following by two keynote speakers exploring the crucial challenge of European values and innovation, a core issue for the European Alliance. You can ask your question to our speakers using the Q&A box at any time during the presentation. It's in the toolbar below the Zoom. So only people from the Zoom connected can ask a question, I'm sorry, for the YouTubers. I will ask a question to our speakers at the end of the last presentation this morning. Please keep your questions short and concise, since we may not have enough time to answer all of them. I warmly welcome now our first speaker. Tanja Brühl. So Tanja is president of the Technical University in Darmstadt before taking on the mission in 2019. She was professor of political science and the vice president of academic affairs at the Goethe University Frankfurt. She is currently the spokesperson of the joint conference of the five university in Hints. And most important for us, Tanja Brühl, he is the first president of Unite Alliance since the foundation in November 2019. She's a convinced European and determined to realize the vision of the Unite as a European university through the collaboration of all partners. Please, thank you very much, Tanja. The floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Dear colleagues, dear students, researchers, staff engaged in Unite, dear guests, welcome to the first public session that we do have from Unite which takes place during our third Unite dialogue. It's really my great pleasure and honor to open today's session. European values and innovation. This is the topic of this panel, as everyone knows. As the president of Unite, I like to illustrate which connections I see between Unite and these two broad ideas. I like to do so in multiple ways, looking back where we started, looking into what we have achieved so far, and where I see contributions of our alliance in the future. So how do European values and innovation come to life in Unite? First of all, I'd like to remind us on the core European values: human dignity, freedom on an individual level, such as freedom of thought, religion, but also the freedom of assembly, expression, and information, the freedom of movement, democracy, equality, rule of law, and human rights. These values are common to the EU countries. They ensure that European societies are characterized by inclusion, by tolerance, justice, solidarity, and non-discrimination. Unfortunately, we observe that some populistic movements and non-democratic actors challenge these core values. Therefore, it is of utmost importance that all societal actors, and especially we as universities, defend the European values. Unite, as a European University Alliance, is contributing to strengthening the core of the European values by demonstrating that cooperation is valuable, that cooperation enables us to develop new ideas and innovation. Innovation is needed. It is deeply needed. It is so important since we have to deal with extremely important and challenging topics. For me, the most important one is, how can we achieve a sustainable future? In 2015, the World Community adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Its 17 Sustainable Development Goals provide a blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and planet, now and in the future. We need innovation, we need new ideas and new solutions in order to establish, for example, more efficient energy systems, in order to establish a carbon neutral economy. European universities could and should take a leading role in providing new ideas. Therefore, I'd like to say a few words on European universities. European universities are themselves an innovation, a vision that starts turning into reality just now. With the founding of Unite in November 2019, all partners joined in their commitment to this vision and to the idea of transforming the European higher education system. As illustrated in our mission, we are committed to innovation and multidisciplinarity in teaching, in research, and in entrepreneurship. We all share the ambition to become a European university with an inter-university campus across 7 countries. We aim a totally new form of collaboration where 7 universities join on a transformative journey toward the European University Alliance. Unite focuses on the thematic areas of energy, artificial intelligence, and Industry 4.0. Therefore, we address great societal challenges and transformative processes of our time, such as the already mentioned sustainability, or to name another one, digitalization. Tackling these challenges requires innovation and collaboration. It requires working together across both disciplinary and physical boundaries and fruitfully using our diversity. It involves the engagement of partners in science, in society, and economy. At its core, I think it's really a European project. Innovation depends on the free exchange of ideas, on dialogue and critique in order to break new grounds. As universities of technology and engineering, innovation is in our DNA, and it is in the name of our alliance, testifying our commitment to realize the potential of a European university network of innovation, technology, and engineering. During the first year since the establishment of our alliance, we already took some important steps in order to turn this vision into reality. We experienced Unite as a living organism. We share a clear mission, but we are agile and always open to innovation and creativity when implementing our ideas. We commonly benefit of what all partners do. We developed a Unite community with really a common spirit and enthusiasm for our initiative among academic, staff, and students of all partner universities. Implementing our work plan and launching the first activities constantly contributes to weaving the web of our cooperation on very different levels and with regard to a multitude of topics. We are also harmonizing processes that ease our collaboration. So, for example, our virtual credit exchange of our students. All these steps are helping us in better understanding of what this complex idea of a European university should or could be for us for Unite. We develop new forms and ways of education related to our key thematic areas. We realize new ways of virtual education that establish innovative pedagogics for teaching in higher education. Let me just give you a few examples. We established a virtual credit mobility program in the field of energy. 2 Unite study programs cover the space and the ocean. So the interdisciplinary Ulysses program, organized by the University of Lisbon, focuses on sustainable environment and the seas. This year's topic of Inspired is extraterrestrial greenhouse. When it comes to the dimension of research, Unite received funding under the Horizon 2020 framework for developing our research and innovation agenda. Unite did also promote research collaboration for the European Green Deal call in the Horizon 2020. And finally, Unite Energy is really a very successful webinar series promoting exchange among researchers in our alliance. Let me conclude by briefly sketching the contribution of our alliance to European values and innovation in the future. All Unite partners all Unite partners are drivers of innovation with the longest established links to entrepreneurial ecosystems in their region. By connecting with another, we create a platform for interaction and the free circulation of ideas from Finland to Portugal. We do not only connect our innovation ecosystems, but also establish links among our broader regions and their societal and economic actors, addressing the so-called third mission of universities besides teaching and research. For all our students, for academics and staff members, we provide opportunities to experience what it means to be a European citizen. By moving freely between all partner universities, they do not only acquire skills to navigate in a multilingual environment, but also experience diverse cultures and life realities. Experiencing the benefits of diversity and cooperation is key to realizing the European project. I'd like to close with thanking to the colleagues of Grenoble INP UGA for organizing and hosting this event. I'd like to thank all of you for joining this public session today, and I'm really looking forward for the inspiring presentation by my 2 colleagues, and I'm open for questions and in the following discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanja Rulle, President from Unite. So if you have any question, please use the Q&A box using inside the Zoom features. I will collect all of them and then we will ask it directly to the speakers at the end of the session. So before moving to the next speaker, I would like to show you a little movie about Unite. So let me share the screen. One second. This is live. And there we go.
Bonjour à tous, je suis Nicolas Thomas, le vice-président étudiant de Grenoble INP et je représente les étudiants de l'établissement. À ce titre, je participe au projet Unite, qui est un projet européen porté par Grenoble INP pour l'Université Grenoble INP. Mais savez-vous ce que c'est le projet Unite ?
L'origine des universités européennes est ce discours du président Emmanuel Macron qui date de décembre 2017, où il pose qu'un grand espace politique comme l'Union européenne se doit d'avoir des universités.
Depuis 30 ans, Grenoble INP fait partie d'un réseau européen d'universités scientifiques et technologiques basé sur la confiance réciproque.
L'Union européenne a repris la balle au bond et lancé un appel d'offres où des consortiums d'universités européennes, qu'on appelle les alliances européennes, ont répondu de façon à donner corps à ces concepts d'étudiants européens, de cursus européens, de diplômes européens.
Dès l'appel à projet en 2019, nous nous sommes demandé comment nous appuyer sur cette opportunité pour aller plus loin que les mobilités Erasmus.
Grenoble a gagné cet appel d'offres et répondu avec un projet qui s'appelle Unite.
Nous avons travaillé pour imaginer une université européenne capable de former des cadres multiculturels pour nos entreprises européennes, capables de développer une recherche responsable dans nos laboratoires.
Unite s'étend de la Finlande au Portugal, avec la Suède, l'Allemagne, la France, l'Italie, l'Espagne. Grenoble INP, UGA participe à Unite parce que cela renforce, promeut notre identité européenne. Au sein de Unite, on fabrique des cursus pluridisciplinaires, mais qui s'adressent à des étudiants européens. L'entrepreneuriat, l'innovation, le doctorat, le partage d'infrastructures de recherche, la science ouverte, le lien avec l'écosystème font partie des sujets que nous abordons dans un environnement pluriculturel et aussi plurilingue. Tous ces travaux sont abordés évidemment avec de grandes exigences d'excellence.
En quoi ce projet diffère du programme Erasmus ?
Unite transforme totalement les relations établies entre les universités partenaires. Au lieu de mettre en place des relations bilatérales, Unite crée des relations multilatérales entre 7 universités qui sont mises en réseau.
Unite propose des mobilités qui seront de formats tout à fait divers. Elles pourront être virtuelles ou en présentiel et de durée très variable. Les services supports se sont organisés et s'harmonisent afin de dématérialiser les procédures, facilitant ainsi ces mobilités.
Dorénavant, nous sommes donc tous des étudiants européens. C'est quoi notre intérêt d'être étudiant européen ?
L'étudiant européen, c'est un étudiant qui saura tirer parti des différentes offres de formation dans les partenaires.
Unite contribue à la formation de ces ingénieurs dans des domaines de pointe, mais également contribue à la promotion des valeurs européennes qui sont inhérentes à la citoyenneté européenne.
Les valeurs d'excellence, on a tous une formation qui est basée très fortement sur le couplage avec la recherche. On se base sur nos enseignants qui sont particulièrement irrigués par leur recherche propre.
Les enjeux environnementaux sont au cœur du projet. Unite insiste aussi sur l'interculturalité comme étant une condition essentielle au respect mutuel et à la tolérance.
Donc maintenant que nous sommes des étudiants européens, qu'est-ce que ça change dans notre vie de tous les jours ? Qu'est-ce que Unite nous apporte d'innovant dans nos enseignements ?
Dans Unite, on a monté un projet autour de l'enseignement à distance pour tous les partenaires dans le domaine de l'énergie.
Unite permet aux étudiants d'être intégrés dans un réseau d'universités qui leur propose des formes traditionnelles de mobilité, mais aussi leur propose l'accès à des nouvelles modalités pédagogiques et à des nouvelles formes de mobilité, comme la mobilité virtuelle ou la mobilité hybride.
Unite, c'est aussi une action au niveau de la recherche. Donc, notamment dans le cadre d'un projet H2020, on a défini un agenda commun de recherche pour faciliter entre autres les co-tutelles de thèse entre les différents partenaires dans les laboratoires.
Outre les programmes d'études d'excellence qui seront proposés aux étudiants, les services supports se mobilisent pour également mettre en place des structures innovantes. Elles pourront prendre la forme de cours de langue, de sensibilisation au multiculturalisme, de tandem linguistique, de mentorat, d'accompagnement pour les étudiants ayant des besoins spécifiques. Bref, toutes sortes de structures que nous construisons en commun pour également construire une identité commune, une culture qui perdurera au-delà, nous l'espérons, du cursus d'études.
Pour en savoir plus, rendez-vous sur nos réseaux sociaux, nos sites internet et rendez-vous du 8 au 10 mars pour le dialogue avec nos partenaires à Grenoble. Tu veux faire un clap de fin ?
So I hope you enjoy the little movie. So let's move to our second speaker, Constance Chevalier-Govers, Grenoble INP UGA professor. Constance Chevalier-Govers is professor of law at University Grenoble INP. Her field of research are related to police and judicial cooperation in European Union, for which she obtained a chair, the chair Jean Monnet. She's in charge of the internalization of the University of Grenoble INP. Constance, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Stéphane. It is an honor for me to be in this public session. And I will start with a word of Jean Monnet. At the end of his life, he said, "If I were to do it again from scratch, I would start with culture. By building European universities," sorry, I have a problem. Don't get to, okay. By building European universities, we are in a way giving a start to European integration, as education can be considered as a part of culture. The aim of this presentation is to demonstrate that European universities are closely linked to European values. On the ash of World War II, building Europe actually began by integrating the economy with the emergence of the common market according to the functionalist methods based on gradual steps. The founding fathers of Europe, Robert Schuman and Jean Monnet, believed in the virtue of creating a de facto solidarity between European states. The construction of the common market was a guarantee of peace in Europe, and the resultant actions also set political integration in motion. This meant that at the very beginning of the European construction, European values were not essential and were therefore not explicitly mentioned in the founding treaties, except for a reference to peace in the preamble.
Sorry, Constance, yeah. I think there's a problem with sharing the PowerPoint.
Yes, there.
Okay, now okay. There is a go. There. Okay, now we can follow.
We can continue. Furthermore, the 6 founding member states of the European Economic Community shared a set of values that were perhaps not necessary to reaffirm. The fall of the Berlin Wall, with the perspective of the future enlargement of the European Union, triggered the need to define values common to European states. Adherence to those values became a prerequisite for accession to the EU. Article 6 of the 1999 Treaty of Amsterdam included for the first time an assertion that European Union is founded on principles common to the member state: freedom, democracy, respect for human rights, and the rule of law. At the same time, during the 1999 European Council meeting in Copenhagen, the head of states and government clarified the condition that candidate states for accession had to meet, as in the Rome Treaty, the only condition was to be a European state. The conclusion of the European Council specified 3 criteria for accession: an economic criterion, to be a market economy; a legal criterion, to be able to integrate the EU law; and a political criterion of respecting democracy, the rule of law, and human rights. During the negotiation of the treaty establishing a European constitution, debate was strained between the member states concerning the wording of the preamble of the European, the preamble on the European common heritage. Convention President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing suggested to refer to the values underlying humanism, equality of persons, freedom, respect for reason. For its part, the Polish government wanted to include a specific reference to Christianity as a common heritage. The preamble of the Lisbon Treaty adopted a compromise version referring to humanism and religion. I quote, "Drawing inspiration from the cultural, religious, and humanist inheritance of Europe, from which have developed the universal values of the inviolable and inalienable rights of human person, freedom, democracy, equality, and the rule of law." For the first time with the Lisbon Treaty, the term values is explicitly used in Article 2 of the TEU, asserting, I quote again, "The Union is founded on the values of respect for human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, including the right of persons belonging to minorities. These values are common to the member states in a society in which pluralism, non-discrimination, tolerance, justice, solidarity, and equality between women and men prevail." The second sentence adds new value to the triptych democracy, human rights, and rule of law. And these new values are pluralism, non-discrimination, tolerance, justice, solidarity, and equality between women and men. The Lisbon Treaty, Treaty also made the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union legally binding. The Charter is therefore a cornerstone of European values by imposing EU institutions and EU member states to respect human rights defined at EU level. It is worth highlighting the preamble, which clearly links values to heritage by stating, I quote, "Conscious of its spiritual and moral heritage, the Union is founded on the indivisible universal values of human dignity, freedom, equality, and solidarity." This charter is the most recent declaration of human rights, and as such, it comprises rights of the 21st century, such as the right to data protection, or the prohibition of eugenic practices, or reproductive cloning of human beings. Today, European values have become a focal point of European integration. It is revealed by the fact that for the first time in the Commission van der Leyen, there is a commissioner responsible for values and transparency, the Czech Vera Jourova. So I'm now going to highlight the contribution of European values to the definition of European identity. In fact, member states succeeded in identifying common values because they share a common heritage. And these values are one of the reason why there is a European identity. It must be noted that the concept of value is subjective. Values can be defined as the moral principle and beliefs or accepted standard of a person or social group. Indeed, values are specific to an identified group and the identified group, which is a social or a cultural group. In consequence, values play a central role in defining European identity. As mentioned previously, respect for European values, as set in Article 2, is a condition for accession to the EU. These values have also to be respected by member states once they are inside the club. Article 7 was inserted in the treaty to create a political control mechanism concerning the compliance with the European value system. Member states that do not respect these values are subject to political sanctions by their peers, such as the suspension of the right of vote within the Council. The first stage of this Article 7 procedure has already been triggered against Poland and Hungary, in particular for the violation of their obligation to ensure the independence of the judicial system. The migration crisis of 2015 revealed cracks in the common values at the heart of the Union, putting solidarity in doubt as certain member states refused to accept their quota of asylum seekers according to the relocation mechanism. It is in this context that on the occasion of the 30th anniversary of the Erasmus program in 2017, that the idea of a European education era emerged. At the Göteborg summit, EU leaders set out a vision of this European education era on two objectives: to make European higher education more competitive and to reinforce European integration and identity. It was asserted that inclusive quality education, as well as the specifically European dimension of education, are fundamental to consolidate the cohesion of European society. It is essential that all citizens know of our common heritage and the diversity of Europe. Education and culture are the best vectors to ensure the strengthening of European identity. The creation of this era, a European education era, is a way to promote a sense of belonging, conveying common values, and practicing inclusive education. Bolstering social cohesion also is necessary to fight against xenophobia, radicalization, and nationalism. At the heart of the European education era, the flagship initiative is without a doubt the European Universities project vaunted by French President Macron in his speech at La Sorbonne University in September 2017. The creation of this European University is also based on the functionalist incremental method. It starts with networks of universities, and they are also called alliances, which will create a de facto solidarity amongst them, paving the way to the integrated European universities. The first call of proposals for the European University Alliances, launched by the Commission in 2018, also made very clear the objective of this initiative. There are two objectives of this initiative. It is to promote common European values as enshrined in Article 2 of the TEU, and to strengthen European identity by bringing together a new generation of Europeans who are able to cooperate and work within different European and global cultures in different languages and across borders, sectors, and academic disciplines. The second objective is to reach a substantial lead in quality, performance, attractiveness, and international competitiveness of European higher education institutions. In this presentation, I insist on the first objective of European education networks, And Stefan Hubach will put the emphasis in his presentation on the second objective related to quality management. The first objective is based on the belief that European university network, by giving the opportunities to students from different universities to study together, should develop a sense of belonging and common values. It is highlighted that the skills needed for the emergence of this new generation of Europeans is cross-disciplinarity and multiculturalism. Most of the 41 alliances take a transdisciplinary approach, prioritizing transversal subjects in their common work. And here is some examples of European universities who are totally based on specific values. And for instance, sustainability, health, open and inclusive academy. And I thought it was also quite interesting in this list that one of the network is based, has as objective well-being, and we could question if well-being is a European value. I want to put the emphasis on the specificity on UNITE. Manifestly, UNITE contributes to the promotion of European values by centering its project on the necessity to produce a new generation of citizen engineers. In the UNITE project, the word values appears 17 times, which manifests the importance attributed to them by the members of the Alliance. The project starts with this assertion: the fundamental European values of human dignity, democracy, equality, the rules of law, and social inclusion are the core principle behind our common objective to promote an ethical, reliable, and sustainable use of technology in keeping with a just and open science approach to produce efficient solutions to world challenges. Values are also referred in the project in the description of the Global Language Center, which is supposed to promote common European values and strengthen multilingual and multicultural European identity. Values are also referred to concerning lifelong learning, which is supposed to diffuse European core values of human dignity, liberal democracy, rule of law, and social inclusion. So the values outlined in the project fit in with those of Article 2, but go even further by encapsulating, for instance, social inclusion. It is worth highlighting the adoption yesterday by the UNITE government platform of the UNITE Charter on Diversity and Inclusion. UNITE also insists on other values and such as ethical, reliable, and sustainable use of technology. So UNITE, as an alliance composed mainly of technological university, it has a duty to look at the impact of technological progress on European value system. Strictly speaking, technological progress will be discussed by Stefan Hubach later on, so I'm not going to insist on this aspect. But what I want to here highlight is that there is a need to reflect on the interaction between innovation, technological progress, and European values. The notion of progress itself raises question. If technological progress doesn't contribute to the promotion of value, we can wonder if it is really progress. I would like to continue by saying that consolidating European values linked to innovation can also contribute to strengthening the European identity. In this way, values to which European citizens are particularly attached, such as data protection and sustainability, lead the EU to become an international actor in setting standards, as it has done, for instance, in adopting the General Data Protection Regulation. And in doing so, the EU can show the world that its common value contribute to its common identity. I would like now to put the emphasis on the central role of mutual trust in the success of European university. Indeed, common values lead to mutual trust amongst European universities network, and this mutual trust is also needed in the quality of education and research. And it is only with this mutual trust based on common value and quality that European university network will be able to become real integrated European universities, delivering European degrees and sharing outcome of research. I would like to conclude, if I may, by doing two suggestions. Indeed, a European university network should take an active role in the Conference on the Future of Europe as a main actor of European civil society. This conference, which is about to be convened very soon, aims at giving citizens a say on what matters to them. The participation of citizens and civil society will be ensured thanks to a bottom-up method and the use of interactive multilingual digital platform. The second suggestion relates to the possible enlargement of UNITE. To my mind, a reflection should be launched on the eventuality of welcoming within UNITE one or two partners from Eastern Europe as a way to consolidate European values and European identity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Constance. Constance Chevalier-Gauvers, professor at Grenoble INP UGA. So we are right on time, almost. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Stefan Hubach. Stefan, he's a manufacturing science fellow in currently works in transverse project at ST Microelectronics. He has been a chairman at ST France Technical College Board of Fellows. Since 1981, he works in many disciplines and lead high priority industrial project. Since 2001, Stefan is visiting professor on QMS, process control, and plasma physics. He is also the ST representative at Industrial Club of Grenoble INP University at Grenoble IMEP Doctoral School. Stefan, thank you very much to be here. The floor is yours. Micro.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be here today. And I will just share my screen. Okay. Sorry for that. I can't share my screen, sorry. Something is wrong. This one. Okay. So it's I'm very proud to make this presentation. It's very important subject, and we will see that technology, responsible citizenship, and impact on engineering and PhD program is very important for 4.0 industry like ST Microelectronics. And so my talk will be in two parts. The first part will be technology responsible and citizen, an introduction of what is 4.0, 4.x industry, and I will not use the term 4.0. Why? Because we will see that the link of this kind of approach, 4.0, the 4.h, the human aspect, is very important in industrial and context challenge. The second part will be dedicated to the technology responsible citizen and the context and challenge, and I will go through that through the ST industrial use case. And then impact on engineering and PhD programs. So let's go to the first part, the challenge of 4.x industrial point of view. And we will start by a small history of the technology. If we look to this picture, we have a vase as a function of the usage of this vase. It can be a religious one or just to take wine or other product. The way the people will communicate to each other, the ontogenes of the vase depends also, have a big impact on the way the people speak, okay, and the dialogue between the people, but also is a representation of the society itself. And this is well documented for a long time. For example, when you have an artifact like a silex, we can say that who invents the silex, because the silex participate to the evolution of the society. But at this period, before the 16th century, what happens? The data coming from the place where we live, the information giving sense can be separated from the place we live, the earth. So the evolution of the society depends on the artifact. And if you don't know where the artifacts are coming from, if you don't respect that, you can have a problem to sustain the society, and that have a big impact on physiology and psychology, the evolution of the human being. So the rational process of scientific approach feed the process, enlightening human reason. It results in a rational pluralism. Gaston Bachelard says that, but a lot of philosophers. So the processes on analysis and synthesis depends of the environment. This is well documented, the wisdom, the ability to use knowledge, know-how, by a lot of European philosophers and anthropologists and in epistemology, and I will go through this path. So the nature and culture are ecologically linked and lighting what is the sense of making process. So let's go to the situation today, when the artifact can break the human and natural ontological link. When you live, this is very well described by a philosopher like Gilbert Simondon. When you have a technical object today, technology 4.0, 1.0 is mechanization, 2.0 is automatization, 3.0 is robotization, 4.0 is interface between people and machines. You can have, of course, more and more data. That this data and this kind of technology takes more and more place, and we can imagine that the meaning we give to this data and this technology can impact a lot the society. So a part with this kind of object, a part of the analysis and synthesis can stay inside the machine. The objective criteria can be inside the machine, and we say that a part of knowledge is inside the machine, and another part is inside the competencies, a way to link people, tools, usage, and process. So the wisdom can be completely outside, inside this machine, and some people speak about artificial intelligence. This intelligence is only the way we put the criteria, the objective criteria, inside the machine. So the crisis, this is in relationship with the crisis of the European science, which was described by Husserl at the beginning of the century. And one consequence is a big challenge. The challenge to preserve the ontological link by cooperative construction in a 4.0, 4.h, and natural common world. So we need to go towards an ecology of sense making. So let's see the example of ST. We are a creator, designer, maker, and user of this technology. ST is a big company, and we have a lot of manufacturing sites, and we have signature of United Nations Global Compact and a member of Responsible Business Alliance. So we have products everywhere in smart driving, industry, smart homes, smart things. So if we look in a functional point of view, okay, in our manufacturing lines, we have systems, of course, with function of products, function of technical resource, and function of people. And we have protocol, operating modes. And today, the quality management system asks to link the structure of the system to the operating protocol. And if you go in the norm today, the question of language is not inside, only a few words about that. And what happened, if you see to ST, okay, you have a huge amount of books today and research done by European research. Today, for example, design theory from École des Mines de Paris with CK theory, and a lot of analysis made at the beginning of the last century, like Ernst Cassirer, okay, who helped a lot in the engineering to understand the concept of function, okay, and substance. So what happened with ST? We are a worldwide company, and we can imagine that this is not a question only on system and protocol. This is also a question of language. Not only the language we are speaking, but every kind of language, even mathematics. Because the way we represent the things, the structure, and the way we represent the protocol is a question of language. And it participates, it's a system, and it's as important as the system structure and the protocol, like we will see just after, because it's impact the knowledge, but also the competency. So how we work today? Of course, ST is involved in European programs, and we can do our R&D, research, innovation, development, without cooperation with PhD and network of European university and industrial ecosystem. This is example of the kind of relationship we have in ENIA program, in industrial engineering, nano program, and university partner, okay, a huge amount, and also ST microelectronics management and team, because without these trials on the field, this making, okay, not just concept, but making, try to put in place, it's not possible to go further. So I would like here to thank you, my colleague from GESCOP, MinParisTech, and my colleague from Fraunhofer, for example. We work a lot, and other universities in Europe, we did a big job with them. And what is the risk? The risk is a problem with rationality and quality management system, and especially a knowledge and competency spread out. The problem of solving paradigm based on bounded rationality is a dominant paradigm today for design model and method, and is subject to several criticisms, and especially the fact that social interaction is not just a design resource, but it's a part of the design itself. So let's look a little bit to this. When we have a system structure, of course, with the scope to do a product, we have function of the resource and function of technical and human. And if we look to this example, we have a project. And what is the question of rational pluralism? We have a small group, and we believe that when we will increase the project, it will go this way. This is absolutely wrong. And when we think this way, it's a certain, I'm sorry, but sorry, I don't see the, okay, people see that? Okay, I will go. It's okay. Okay, so normally I have a movie, but this is flying birds. These birds are doing very complex moving. They are moving in a quite complex way when you see them flying. And we have never seen when other birds are coming in this kind of structure, we have never seen a bird falling. What does that mean? If we believe that a project is like these birds, okay, we believe that we can do the project alone, okay, and even if we receive new people, new tools, new usage or new processes, that will work. And this is not true. This is not true. We are not starling birds, but we are a fluid of network fluid of actors, like Bruno Latour said. That means that this is a problem of language. And this is a problem of language in terms of objectivity of the link. And knowledge is a question of how to describe a functional system in terms of criteria. And these criteria needs to be objective criteria. Otherwise, we can't reproduce the system. The problem is all the criteria are not objective. An objective criteria needs to be sustained by a need. And the need is justice, liberty, and I will come back to that. And also value. And we will come to that, because if an objective criteria is not coherent with the need and the value, the program have no sense. So this is a question of competence. And what happens here, the question of our language were very well described by Ernst Cassirer, the symbolic forms. But also you have very nice books already existing concerning the process of knowledge, especially by psychanalysts and psychologues, okay, which help a lot to work on this subject. So what happens if you don't take care about that? We did some experiment, and we see that if you are higher than 2 or 3 persons in a big groups, okay, it's like a bubble tower. After a few weeks, and the higher the education level is, okay, you have a sort of spread out of knowledge. And this is the case when you have this kind of complex system. I'm sorry, the movie is not working, but here you have a Shibura crossway. You have people around, you have tools, machines, and people inside the tools. And when you see the way the people proceed in this kind of very complex system, they proceed by mimetism. They are not proceeding because they know. There is a know-how. And this know-how is developed by mimetism. And if an engineer or if anybody comes in this kind of structure to change it, to make an evolution of it, it needs to be in a world which is not a bounded rationality world. There is an expanded rationality. So what does rational behavior means in infinitely expanded and non-countable set of actions? The concept of expanded rationality, introduced by HUL, highlight the designer ability to manipulate individually or collectively infinitely expanded concepts. So if I conclude on this picture of Kandinsky is for me very relevant of what we need to work on. On the left, you have what we would like, what we want, criteria, objective criteria. Okay, but in all kind of language, not mathematics, which is very special. And of course, in this system structure, on the left, you have bounded rationality. We need it, of course. And on the right, full rationality and complementarity. So the structure is formed by, of course, organization function, the people who have a rational communication, normally, and the tools, okay, the resource, the functional resource, and the product on the smart thing for product, for example. On the right, you have the genesis space. Each time we do something, we learn something to a student or a new product, we have an ontogenesis period in which, through the technology and the objective criteria, we try to train by mimetism an epigenesis, meaning, of course, we have specific knowledge by geography of people and tools and product and process. And then phylogenesis, which is know-how, linked to know-how, the way we use it. And that doesn't mean that we understand everything. But when something is wrong, what happened is the fact that starts the Babel Tower. And this Babel Tower is a question of discourse of language. So the risk is that people don't understand each other. And this is not only a question of objective criteria, this is a question of psychology and language. So if we want to make this link, okay, we need to take care about that, because if we introduce an innovation, if we introduce an evolution, if we miss something, we have to remember that the next step to convince people to change the way we are proceeding is a question of ontogenesis, epigenesis, and phylogenesis. And that participate to make sense making of quality management system, do, know-how, control, and design. So if I conclude, of course, research, European research is very helpful for us. There is new foundation of management research. We can, in arts, there is very interesting books about that. And in, for example, pragmatism, for example, George Herbert Mead, which is very important in quality and not enough known, in my opinion. So what is important for us, for students, PhD, UNs, to develop and promote education skills? 2 words. First aspect is a full design activity. Analysis, pragmatism help a lot for that, and synthesis, conceptual. Very well described by Cassirer, for example. The second thing is for what? To preserve ontological link between 4.0, 4.h, and natural common world, sustain cooperative preservation, reorganization, evolution, and expansion of knowledge and competency, and where social interaction is not just a design resource, is a part of the design itself. And of course, the generation of unexpected concept in an integral part of the design process, which was well defined by Secatori, for example. The quality management system is not only a method, it's a methodological process, and well described, for example, by Cassirer or other guys. So where are taken into account, of course, European nation citizen, socio-economic needs, which are, of course, the needs of people, health, liberty, freedom, right, justice, education value, rights, beautiful, true, to define the science making of the scientific objective criteria. And Jean-Luc Barthélemy, for example, described very well that. So citizen engineering with natural science, humanity, technology, education skills is indispensable breeding ground towards an ecology of sense making. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stéphane Hubach. Okay, we will now move on with the Q&A session. So if we're looking at the program so far, we are still on time. So thank you, everyone. I would like to ask the first question to Tanya Brühl. Tanya, you can hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, with the speaker, yeah, perfect. The question is, how can I, as a student, benefit from UNITE and its commitment to European value and innovation?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very important question. And I think there are two possibilities that I'd like to highlight. The first one is that UNITE offers really a lot of opportunities where as students you can take part of. And this is not only like the typical Erasmus where you go abroad for 1 semester or 2 semesters. It's really about studying in Europe. And as we just heard by Constance's and Stéphane's contribution, it's about European values and the idea of a European identity that forms itself. So the idea is that through UNITE, in all our courses, the European values play a very important role. So when we talk about freedom or diversity or tolerance, solidarity, and so on, they are included in the normal curriculum that we do have, and they will be addressed there. To be even more to the point, we do have different courses that you can choose at the moment, like the 2 interdisciplinary study programs that I mentioned beforehand, which is on the one hand organized by the University of Lisbon, the Ulysses, where a course on sustainable environment takes place, focusing on the sea, or Inspired, which is focusing on the extraterrestrial greenhouse. So these are ideas. We are planning to have in the future joint programs, even more. We do have some, but we're going to have more. And we do have some courses that are open for all towards entrepreneurship, towards artificial intelligence and energy. This is what you can just take part. But in addition to that, you can also help us in order to bring the vision into reality. What I mean by this is that you can engage yourself as a student in the newly founded student assembly, which is called SURE. So just become a member of SURE, just engage yourself, and you can contribute to, well, make the vision to reality by just engaging yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I had another question, this time for Constance Chevalier-Gauvin. The question I got from the chat is, do you think it is the role of universities to promote values? First part of the question. And then, is there a risk for independence of science to link value and science?
Thank you very much. Yes, I think today it's a very central question, and it is a very sensitive question. This link between value and university and research. In a restrictive vision of what the university's mission is, one could consider that it is not the role of university to promote specific values, university in this conception, main objective would be only to deliver knowledge and support research, but without any interference with the social and political inputs. Nevertheless, universities have a tradition to promote humanist values and tolerance, and it has been the case since the creation of universities. Initially, even universities were religious universities and so linked to specific values. Well, they were religious, but linked to values. And therefore, I think that they should continue this tradition to remain a place of tolerance, dialogue. There should be the forum of exchange of ideas and to promote social inclusion, because it is their role I think they are indeed today a central part of this civil society. Well, at the European level, this is also the case, especially with the social changes that we are having today. We experience social changes, contemporary social transformation, ecological transition, energy transition, economic transition, and so they have to take part to this transition. At the European level, European universities, as I said, have even another role, which is even more important, is to develop this sense of belonging among these European citizens, and it is okay actually to tolerance. Yes, I think it is their role, but it has nevertheless universities have to respect the independence of science, but I think it's not in contradiction. It is not at all in contradiction.
We just received a question for Stefan. Stefan, can you describe by an example how European universities and their contribution to PhDs can be real added value for industry management?
Okay. When you want, for example, I will take an operational process. For example, you would like to modify the way you are doing your maintenance procedures. Today, if you want to convince to change the maintenance procedure for a profile as an engineer, it's very difficult. It's very difficult because they're convinced that what they are doing is the true, not objective, the true. What is the difference between the true and objective? Is the fact that objective is linked to science. So it's based on facts. And if you have a function, for example, to do an intervention on a machine, you define this function by objective criteria, not value criteria. And if you go in the quality management system, you don't see the term objective criteria, you see the term value criteria in the norm, which is a big problem because the engineers have his objective criteria, which answer to what is suffer, and his own education. And it was trained by only with mathematics, for example. In mathematics, the language is very special because when you use a sign plus, the criteria are fixed. Nobody accepts to write 1 + 1 = 2 or 2 - 5 = I don't know. Okay? And why? Because the sign is linked to the quality. When you write a procedure, this is absolutely wrong. So what happens when you ask an engineer to change his procedure? The meaning, okay, the meaning of what is written is not only objective criteria, is the needs and value. And you can see a big problem when you want to change it and you have silos. People are convinced that what they do is the truth. So why students are very important for us and university is the manager needs to implement a complementarity, meaning the aptitude of our groups, which are focused, of course, on the bounded rationality, to go to the expandable way. And this is very difficult. This is very difficult. That's why we have to use students, university, to put that in place in our own structure. And why the management need it? It needs it because the management every day is focused on, of course, the results we have. Does that mean that the management is not convinced that we have to introduce innovation, to have an expanded rationality? The answer is yes, they are convinced. But how to do the things at the same time? And the processes to change the way we are working is not it's not an epistemic process. Because if it's epistemology, that means you understand what is asked to you. It's an ontogenies process, meaning that we need people to help us to change our culture. And between two maintenance procedures, we need to have this spirit. And the management of ST today, if we want to move forward, needs the support of European society, university and students to support this program. It's very hard for a company, but not only ST, but other companies, to change the way we are working, from ontogenesis to epigenesis and to make culture, if we want and stay coherent in terms of objective criteria, needs and value, if we are not doing that with the external world, this is very important for us.
Thank you, Stéphane. I would like to address the next question to Tenya. Tenya, how is UNITE, especially introducing European values and its activities as a transversal element, or what are the future plans to further promote this?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for this question, but actually I'd like to just say two words to the discussion that just was taking place between Stéphane and the question that you answered, because I'm really impressed by the idea of thinking about expandable rationality and what that means in terms of really interaction in companies and for PhD students. But I'd just like to add a very basic idea at that point, which is at what point does UNITE contributes to the, or what is good for PhD students at that point? I think by taking part in UNITE's programs, PhD students learn something else as well, which is crossing borders in terms of the multi-language thing, so that you're familiar with talking with colleagues in other languages. But what is even more important, the multiculturalism at that point, so that we are aware of the point that we really have diversity and that diversity enriches our lives. And this is something that I think is important for all people and for PhD students as well. So coming to the question, sorry, was somehow I had the feeling I'd like to add that point. So what kind of future plans we do have? First of all, we'd like to, we just started 1.5 years ago with our first meeting in Darmstadt in November 2019. And looking back, what we talked about there was more an idea what we can do. And now we are in the process of establishing UNITE in teaching, in research, in interlinking the ecosystems. In regard to teaching on the governance platform yesterday, we just discussed inter alia the question of further joint programs that will be established between the universities, and there are some ideas on the table on having joint programs on artificial intelligence. We are very successful in the area of energy at the moment. So I think there will be new courses for the students and PhD students as well. This is one point. Then, regarding research, we do have some applications, as I mentioned, in the Horizon 2020 program, and I hope that they will be successful so that we will have even more joint research in our three most important topics. And regarding the ecosystems, I'd just like to reiterate that these 7 universities have a lot of things in common, and one of them is that we have very good ecosystems in terms of companies that are working together with the 7 universities. And so the idea is to link together the 7 ecosystems and the universities in order to have more innovation for the societies and for the economy at that point. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to address the next question to Constance. It's coming from the chat. How do you raise awareness of Unite in your own institution? And how do you have any specific incentive that can enhance the willingness to participate at institutional level?
I think first, in terms of education, to diffuse values, it is not always very easy. It depends in which field you are you're dealing with. I would say, for instance, in law, it's very easy to diffuse the concept of value because it is at the heart of this discipline. And but it is more, I think it is more difficult to diffuse this concept in a technological in the technological field. Even so, as we have seen, it is very essential. So I guess it would be very important to have humanities credit in also in the training of engineers, and this is the focus of European universities, to be pluridisciplinary. It is a tool. It is necessary. It is a tool to reach these values, to have a transdisciplinary conception, and not to study in silo. And well, how to have students take part to this training and to Unite activities. I think it is a real challenge, because Unite cannot really change totally the curricula of the different universities. We cannot have, I mean, we are going to change and to have joint programs and joint diploma, but it is not possible to create totally a new curricular at the level of this alliance. So, well, a few ideas would be to have free credits, ECTS free credits, Unite free credits, which could be obtained in all the universities for taking part to multicultural activities, multilingual tasks, skills. So this idea of free Unite ECTS would be I think, a very good idea, even if it's very difficult to implement in the different partners. And another tool which I consider as very perhaps useful and to make it more flexible is to use open badge for all these different skills that students can obtain in other disciplines, and in order to diffuse these values.
Thank you, Constance. Next question coming from the chat from Francisca Chulek. This is a question for Stefan. It's a long question, so I will read it, Stefan. How is the design or the construction of a system of a machine not based on value? Where are all human with values, prejudice, and emotions? So everything is based on value and is influenced by our prejudice and emotion. How can our work be purely rational? It's for you, Stefan.
Okay. Okay. So first, this question is quite representative of how we see rationality and the merge we do between rationality and knowledge and know-how. Rationality is a human being process. Okay? This is a very special way of linking the things, which is specific to human. This is not linked only with objective criteria. And this is why we want a link between humanities and natural science. Why? Can we say that when we do humanity, we are not rational? So emotion is something, when you feel the world, okay, this is the first step of knowledge, of knowledge. Why? Because you have psychophysic reaction. If you don't have this psychophysic reaction, you are not in link with the world. So you don't react. So the scope of science is not the true, is objective criteria. The true is a value. This is the first point. When we build something, we try to do ontogenesis, meaning we try not to learn. You didn't learn to walk because something explained to you. You learn to walk because this is a need, okay? And this is also inside the value, education, environment you live. Does that mean that walking, you can explain why in an objective way? The answer is no. So this merge between value and objective criteria make a big of confusion. When we try in industry to make something objective, functional, we need, if we want to be coherent, that's why we speak about sense making, okay, making. Because we believe that when you learn, okay, something, first is like you learn to walk. And the first time you do something, you don't know before. After you have the epigenesis, the value criteria, and then it becomes cultural. So what we believe is if we want to build a functional system which is coherent with value and needs, we need that the sense making of objective criteria needs to take into account value and needs. And this is how we separate the functional system, and we make the functional system, which is bounded rationality, because if you want to build something and reproduce, you need to have objective criteria. This is functional approach. The second aspect I highlight during my presentation, you can be objective in terms of system, function of the process, function of the usage, function of the tools, function of the people, but you can't put all the objective criteria for the relationship between the people. Meaning that somebody is doing, okay, realize, some others are accountable, some others are consulted, or you are consulted and informed. This relationship is a question of language, is a question of expanded rationality, and even physics today, and that's why perhaps we have to change the way we learn. I am from physics. With quantum mechanics and relativity, we explain 5% of the matter of the universe. 20 more is black matter. Today, it's proven that we miss 75%. Does that mean that we don't have to explain more? No, we don't have objective criteria. We are not able to link. And when we speak one to the other, of course, we can catch the emotion. But when we are making something, we are in front. We have all of us pair of lights. My feeling is it's a danger to believe that we can all be the same. The complementarity of the people, and the European culture is a big example of that, is a chance to find a way to innovation by the complementarity of vision, and to try to make a system this time which take into account the emotion of people from the value they put and the needs they have inside the objective criteria. Okay, that's my feeling about that.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask, we have two questions. So the next one will be for Tanya. Tanya, where do you see Unite in 5 years?
Well, hopefully, so it's where I see it, and I hope I would see it at that point, is that, well, first of all, Unite will exist and will consist as a multi-campus European universities having at least 7 partners. So I'm referring to your talk, Constance, where you mentioned it would be good to include Eastern European universities at that point. So this is an idea to include them. Second, what is important is that I think the culture of the European University and the identity of the 7 member universities will have changed. What I mean by this is that we do have, in terms of culture, really the idea of having a European values that are shared by all the universities. And regard to the identity, my idea is that being a professor in Darmstadt, Grenoble, Barcelona, wherever, I'm not only a professor at this university, but I have the feeling to be a professor, a Unite professor as well. So having a shared or double identity at that point. And the last, and I think it's still important point, is that Unite will be a major player in the European education area. So that other European University Alliance are looking what we are doing, and that we do have some kind of influence on the European politics, because we need some funding in the long-term period. So this is my idea about the vision for the next 5 years.
Thank you very much. So far, we will have one more question, the last one, from Cal Bonofus Murat. And the question will be for Constance. Constance, here the question. Have you raised how you raised the issue of how to measure the acquisition of value through micro-credential with the Direction Générale de l'Éducation et de la Culture de la Commission européenne?
Well, I think this is what we have to do next. The micro-credential is a priority of the European Commission, and we have to develop these tools to be able to use it to promote our values. Well, we mentioned, for instance, multiculturalism, which is central, but I think it's not only this. We have probably to develop also training in terms of ethics, the ethics of engineer, which is a set of value which is specific to a domain, well, I guess it is no. We haven't. Well, or from what I know, we haven't had this initiative, and it's one of our priority to have a clear answer from the Commission on how to use these micro credentials.
very much. I would like to close now the Q&A session. Thank you for your interest, and thanks to all the speakers for the answers. Just for your information, we reach roughly 300 participants using Zoom and YouTube together, which make the third Unite Dialogue our biggest online event so far. If you would like to learn more about Unite, please visit the webpage www.unite-university.eu. And I would like to remind all the Unite members to join the internal welcome at 10:45 on Zoom before the start of the parallel session. Thanks again, everyone. It was a great pleasure to chair this interesting session. Now it's time to close this seminar. I would like to thank all the participants, speakers, the organizing committee, and the technical team for the success of this Unite Third Dialogue. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Cheers.